You probably work a day job or maybe even go to school. And all day you've been thinking about working on your comic. You can't wait to get home just so you can start working on it. But when you get home, you're so exhausted. You're so tired. How can you make progress when you have a life to live as well? Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome to Panels in Progress, a channel about making comics and learning through the process. And today we're going to talk about how to make progress when you've got a job. You could be anywhere on this. You could be around my age, working a full-time job, you've got a family and responsibilities around the house to take care of, or you could be in school where you're learning life things and you also have things that you have to do, homework, chores, whatever to take care of. Whatever the situation may be, when you have other things you have to do, making comics sometimes takes a back seat. But we still want to make our stories, we still want to tell these stories, and we want to move forward. But how can we find that balance? Back when I was younger, I used to spend endless hours drawing. Yeah, I had school, yeah, I had, chores, but I would basically spend my time from the second I got home to the second I went to bed drawing and creating. And then I do even more drawing and creating on the weekends. So I had what seemed like endless amounts of time to draw. Now, as an adult, I don't have as much time, but I still want to make a story. I still want to tell stories. I still want to make comics. And really, I had to change my perspective on what that looks like as an adult. What does that look like? How can I make progress day after day, week after week to actually finish a story? And to be honest, it looks quite different depending on the day, depending on what's going on, and depending on my level of stress. Progress looks different when you're a working adult because you can't guarantee that every single day you're going to be able to work the same amount. You might set a goal for the week. You want to finish 5 pages. 5 pages doesn't seem like a lot. And when I say 5 pages, I'm saying 5 pages in whatever phase you're in. So 5 pages of roughs, 5 pages of thumbnails, 5 pages of penciling, 5 pages of inking. I don't know, it depends on your inking style. 5 pages of coloring. Whatever phase you're in the comic making process, you think that in a week you can finish 5 pages because that's almost 1 page every other day. But the truth of the matter is, some days you might not be able to finish any pages. Depending on the type of person you are, you might take that personally, like as a personal failure, that you can't even set a goal and complete it for that day. But if you reframe that idea and say, okay, the large goal is 5 pages, but the small goal is 2 pages, that might actually be able to be done. Because some days, like I said, you're going to be able to do more than you expect, while other days you might not be able to. Some days you might just only be able to show up. And on those days that you're just showing up, 1 panel is enough. 1 panel is better than nothing at all. So really, you just have to lower the bar a little bit. I think Atomic Habits was the book that I read that talked about having a high goal, low goal. And some days you're going to fall in the middle of it. And you can still consider that a win. And that actually leads into the next talking point, which is lowering the bar without lowering the goal. Your goals stay the same, but you're reframing how you attack those goals. It's reframing your expectations. Let's say you've had a busy day at work and you really don't necessarily have the 1 or 2 hour time period that you set aside. Well, take a moment to rest, because we all need rest, and then think about what you can do within that hour. If all you have is an hour, what can you do within that hour? I would actually suggest that don't try to figure out what you're going to do that day just as you open up your iPad, or just as you get on the computer, or open up or sit down to work, because that's just going to kill your time. You kind of want to have a plan of what you're working on. So for instance, right now I'm in the inking phase. So when I sit down to work, I know that I'm going to be inking a page or a panel, whatever it is. So I already know what I'm going to do, so it's easier for me to just get started. But if you don't know what you're going to do and you're trying to figure out what needs to be done next, that's wasting valuable time that you already don't have. And sometimes within this lowering of the bar, your work process might look a little fragmented. Sometimes you won't be able to complete that entire panel within the hour or 2 hours or 30 minutes. I mean, I'm being pretty generous. I know that some lives are so busy that they can only spare 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even only 10 minutes, which, if that's all the time you have for that particular day, then you definitely want to make it count by focusing on something you can achieve. And then on the next day, you just continue that same process. And there's also going to be those days where you've got to set your perfectionist aside. When we're making comics, if we want to make real progress, we cannot be a perfectionist. We have to figure out what our good enough level is and then keep going. Because if we get stuck on something not looking the way we want it to look, or not being perfect, then again, you're wasting time where you could be making progress and moving forward. You can always come back later when you have more time, when you have more energy. But for now, just try to move forward with whatever process that you're in. The next thing I want to talk about is protecting your energy. I know that every day I plan to work on my comic. That is my number one intention. Every single day I am going to get up and spend some time working on the comic. However, I can't account for chaotic days at the office. I can't account for things that happen around the house that need my attention. I can't account for traffic on the way home for work that takes up more of my time. But what I can do is allow myself the space I need to rest and reset, and then begin. Don't force it. Don't force working on the comic if your head is completely not into it. Like, if you are completely drained, then maybe that day is just a rest day. Or at least allow yourself 10, 15, however many minutes you need to allow to kind of decompress from the day before you start drawing. Sometimes I think it's Kesh who does this, where it's like, if you can only do 2 minutes of drawing just to show up, just to say you did something, you work on whatever you can in that 2 to 5 minutes. And if you want to keep going, then keep going. If you don't have the energy to keep going, then hey, you showed up. We'll try again the next day. But get into the habit of respecting yourself enough to know what you need in that moment. Because forcing the comic, you're going to be able to see that in the artwork itself. Maybe. It depends on the style. If you're very tense, your lines might not be as flowy as you want them to be. You might be drawing stiff characters. stiff poses, or you might not be able to actually think about the comic itself. It just really depends on the type of person you are. Some people can flip a switch and they go from work mode instantly to comic making mode. And if that's you, then yeah, flip your switch, get into the groove of making a comic, and eventually it'll all flow out. I think another artist that I was listening to, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how instead of starting on the hardest part of the comic page, he'll start on something that's insignificant in the background, or just some small little detail that gets him warmed up to start on the parts that are more important in the comic. So maybe you could try that too. And along with listening to yourself and your body about not forcing it, know when to stop. Let's say you have the time. Now you have 4, 5, 6 hours. You've been drawing and drawing and drawing, and you realize, oh, my back hurts because I'm hunched over the desk, or my hand is cramped because I'm gripping the pen or the pencil so tightly, or your eyes are tired and blurry. That's a good time to stop. Like, know when to stop or rest. One of my indicators that it's time for me to call it a day on making the comic is I start to lose focus. I start to get distracted where, suddenly I'm completely zoned into the comic, I'm making progress, and then the next thing you know, oh, let me get on my phone real quick and do this, or oh, I'm gonna stop and watch whatever's happening around me, or I just can't, I seem scattered. Usually once I start feeling that scattered sensation, that's when I'm done for the day. So try to know yourself, know your limits. If you know that after an hour working, you gotta stop and do something else, then do that. If you know that your capacity is 2 hours, know that. Whatever your capacity is, find that and make sure you're taking care of yourself. Because there's way too many comic artists, manga artists that end up hurting themselves because they surpass their limits when they need to really listen to their bodies. So I said all that to say that progress looks very different when you are making comics as your part-time passion. Some days your progress is going to be impressive. You're going to hit that page goal. You're going to hit that weekly 5 pages or 10 pages, however many pages that you wanted to hit. Some days you're going to hit that goal, but other days, just showing up, just working on a panel, just putting together what you can is going to be more than enough to see progress. And remember, it's the consistency of showing up every single day or every other day or whatever your schedule allows that allows you to make the story that you want to tell. Making comics while working or going to school is about balance. Some days the scale is going to tip in favor of work, and some days the scale is going to tip in favor of the comics. But as long as you keep showing up, you're making progress. If you want to see the comics that I've made progress on, check out the links in the description below. Let me know where you fall on this journey. How do you allot your time to making your story? And until next time, let's all make some progress.